All right, guys, thanks for joining us again. We made a lot of changes on the back end to get authentication kind of set up. Our goal now is to have our front end create views and make API calls to log in, log out, sign up, and then also get authenticated, perms or capabilities once we have all that going. There is one thing I need to correct right before lunch. I made an error, so we'll make sure everyone's following along and not running into issues. So I had this perform create method originally in my serializer. So I have a lot of files open. That was my mistake. This is not a method that exists in a base class for model serializer. So if you try to override it, which I did, I put a breakpoint here and it was never being called. And I was like, what's going on? I realized, again, this is not a method for model serializer. So you can create a method called this, but no one's going to call it for you. So in this case, this was the wrong place to put it, and that was my fault. That method should be in your view set because the model view set does have a perform create in its base class, and it will call this method that you override for the view set, not the serializer. So that was my mistake. Hopefully you guys understand why that needs to be here. But okay, with that change in play, our backend should be good to go. It's time to focus on our front end. So with that, I'm going to clear some rough files out of here. All right, just to recap the one change we made on our front end already. If I go to my API files, I added an API helper that's going to get the CSRF token. And additionally, if we have this separate project setup, again, React and Django separate, we need to provide this additional config with credentials equals true. This kind of lines up with our Django project where we said allow credentials. Django's allowing it and we need to send them. Again, this is just some of the settings we need to deal with. Again, it took me a while to figure out everything Django was looking for, but this, you do need this in Django, and you do need with credentials in your React app if you have a separate project setup. Just want to make that super clear. All right, with this config in place, every API call that we're making now will pass the config object as part of the call, because that is what Django is going to be looking for, that CSRF token and any additional things we're passing. So with that in place, our API calls should be good to go. And to prove that, I have my to-do site running. Notice we are getting our to-do lists. We had 3 of them. Summer to-do, 2020 goals, and weekend to-do. No tricks here. I guess there's a small thing that you want to keep in mind, and this is something that kind of trips me up. So just a heads up to everybody. I am currently logged in as the admin user. So I am not an anonymous user right now. So this is kind of not what I want to test with. So always keep in mind, if you have another tab where you log into your admin panel, you have a CSRF token for that admin user. So if I go to, where's application cookies? This is the CSRF token that I got when I logged in my admin panel. So Django is still sending CSRF tokens. So keep in mind, don't get tripped up and think you're an anonymous user. You're really not. So I'm going to log out here. Okay, so we're not logged in anymore. Now here, I should be an anonymous user, but nothing's changed here. Looks like something has changed. Ah, yes. So something has changed. Now that I refreshed, notice I got a 403 error. Because I am no longer logged in. I am not authenticated on from the back end. And if you remember, in design choice, I said everyone needs to be authenticated to get access to any CRUDing operations. So this anonymous user is properly being denied based on my desire to deny anonymous users. Okay, so that seems like that's working. Again, we can change that if we want to, but for our purposes, we're gonna stick with it here. So anonymous users denied right now. We need to log in. Now, obviously, users are not gonna be logging in through the admin panel. That's not for them. So we need to create a login capability here. So we're gonna do some basic React stuff, create a login page, tie into an API call that we'll make, and then hopefully our login feature will work, but can't find out without testing. So let's get to React development. I'm gonna go to my front end, and let's create a new page. I'm going to call this page login page.js. Good name for a login page. This will be a React functional component called login page. And we're just going to have a simple form here. So I think we need a h2. What else do we want here? We need break lines. All right, let's create a form so the user can actually submit some data. So we're going to do this kind of quickly because we've done this many times before. We're going to create a form that's going to submit an on submit event. When that happens, we're going to handle that event. Right, so we're going to create an event handler. Again, we don't add parentheses because we're only passing the name of the function. We're not calling the function here. This form is going to have a few fields in it. Let's see if we can do this quickly. We're going to have a label that says username. Then we want some inputs. That's going to have a name of username and the placeholder of enter. Okay. What else? We need password, obviously, because they need to enter in password. Again, if I'm going too quickly, let me know, but this is basic React development, nothing too fancy going on. Creating our form that we will send data through. So password, this is going to be typed passwords to get those actual dots when we're typing. Name is going to be password. And then we obviously need a button to submit this data. So the user needs to click something. So we'll say button type is going to be submit. It must be type submit, otherwise your form doesn't really know what that button is doing. And we're going to say login. Okay, so pretty standard form here. I don't think we need to discuss it, but we want to process this form. So to do that, I specified handle login will be my handler. So let's create an event handler up here. All right, and this will be called handle login. We want to take in the event object. Again, we've said this many times, but again, the event object is automatically going to be passed to our event handler by our browser. So we are not passing this event object, but we do want to use it. So in this case, we want to prevent default, which we should have put method equals post here. We want to prevent default, which basically is going to prevent our page from refreshing, because that is a default behavior when you send a post. So we prevent default first. Then we want to extract the values out of the events object, which is going to contain our input fields. So we'll say let's log in data equals objects. Username is going to be evt.target.elements username.value. And we want to do the same for the password. There are other ways to extract data from a form. There's something called form data, which is kind of like a class that you can pass in the event target and it'll extract the fields for you. So again, many ways to get these values out of here. You can also reference this by index and not keyword. So you might see different forms of data extraction. But at the end of the day, we should have the user's inputted value. So let's make sure we print that out to see it. Let's say login info. And let's make sure we actually capture it. It's always good to incrementally test. So no API calls right now. I just want to make sure my login page works. But obviously we need a route for it. So I'm going to go to my route level, which is app.js. We need a new route. I think a good route name would be login. So login will get us there. The component or the page will be login page, which should be imported. What else? All right, let's just test it out. Go to our login page, make sure we can capture data. Pretty simple task. So here we are. Let's go to /login. Don't forget your hash if you have not entered that. All right, there's our login page. Nothing too amazing here. Let's log in with donut user, Quebec 12D5. All right, there we go. So we are capturing that. Let's make that a little larger for our eyes. So yeah, we are capturing the user inputs. We got the password and username. That looks like what I typed in. All right, cool. So we got our UI kind of functional now. Let's tie in our API where we can actually send an API request to login where we have that route defined on our backend. So it shouldn't be too much more work here. I'm gonna go to my to-do API and let's add another API call here. So I'm gonna maybe divide these out. Let's say these are task list methods. And I'll say these are authentication API methods. I could probably create a different file for this also, but I'm going to be lazy here. So we're going to create a new API call. I'm going to say this is going to be called login, for lack of a better name, async. All right, we're going to do something very similar to the post right here. Let's copy that. Okay, so we want to call Axios post. Our URL on the backend is /login. That's simple. Remember, we have login data we're going to pass here. So we need to accept login data as input. Login data, we'll pass it along. One thing here, since we have put CSRF exempt on our login handler on the backside, we do not need to send a CSRF token. Pretty sure about that. We'll test it, but pretty sure I've tested it. We don't need to send a CSRF token for any routes on the back end that are CSRF exempt. So we could leave off the config. I'm not sure if there'll be an issue if we try to send it. So maybe no harm if we do, but let's try it without it and see actually if that works. If not, we might need to debug or read some documentation. All right, so I'm going to send my request to base URL, which is my server, /login, and hopefully we get a login response. So I think that's all correct. Let's actually code this up in our login page. So if you guys remember, we need to create, or we don't do that, we do that here. So I'm going to do const response, const data equals to do API. There you are. We want to call the login method we just created and pass it the login data. If I can get some audience participation, Jenny Lee, can you tell me something that's like, let's say I want to print console log data here. Can you comment on what's going to be printed out right here?
It should be printing out the login data, right?
Not quite. So we're passing login data to our API. Our API is passing us something back, and we want to print that out. So what do you think this might or should be? It's a trap question, just so you know. How about Rod Flowers? Do you have any idea what this might print out? What type of data this would be? Like, what would that look like?
It's still printed out as an object list, right?
So ideally, we want to print out what the server responds to us with. Again, as I said, this is kind of a trap question. Remember that this is an asynchronous function. We need that to resolve to get the actual data, meaning if I printed this out right now, this would show me a pending promise because every async function returns a promise no matter what. So this is going to return a promise. So this will be an unresolved promise that will resolve to what my data should be. So what I mean by that is I want to await right here, meaning this is going to return a promise. The await keyword says wait till that promise resolves and only then return me what the actual data was. Now, if you guys remember, if I want to use awaits, I need to have an async function. We could also do this a different way by doing a .then. Again, we've been through this, promises, super confusing. I know, just want to make sure we have a good discussion on it. Just understand my login function right here is asynchronous, and it must be asynchronous because Axios is an asynchronous call. Oh, sorry, my try-catch fetch is asynchronous. Axios is also asynchronous. Again, multiple layers of asynchronous code, returning promises between each layer. We need to wait for that to resolve until it's resolved. We won't do anything else. So this console log will eventually print out the actual data that we are expecting since the promise resolves on this line. Was there a hand raised?
Yeah, I have a request. Could you put up the login route on Python on the right side so I can see that?
Sure, that's quite possible. So we want to look where we're hitting. We're hitting.
It would be in the back end, right?
Yeah, a lot of project files go through. URLs, we could split screen that. Okay, so connecting this side to this side, we have slash login right here. That is what we're calling right here. So this base path is all coming from, that's where my server is running. To-do API, if you remember, is my prefix, just kind of trace back your path. So my prefix was to-do API, so that's why I have to-do API kind of stamped on here. And then I stamp on login to match, to hopefully hit this route.
Could you also show the handle login code?
Andrew, you're too needy. No, I'm just kidding.
So
Handle login.
that's sorry, that's what I really wanted at first.
No,
I
no,
didn't
no,
want to
no.
see the URLs.
I'm kidding. Absolutely appreciate your digging deeper here. So we want to see the handler. So that's in views off. Okay, so this is views off. Handle logging functions right here. Notice we marked it CSRF exempt, so we should not be expected to send the CSRF token. Our goal here is to send a post. The body of the message should have a username and password. Again, that's what we're packaging up right over here. The login data is what's being packaged up in the JSON, sent over the wires, the internet. We get it on this side, we unpackage it, the JSON to Python code. So we have a dictionary now. We use a dictionary to extract values that we want and go through authenticating and logging in. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything works, but only one way to find out. So let's try it out. So now that I have my wires connected, let's clear this. I think I have my proper credentials. I'm gonna hit login. All right, there we go. Our response data was username, donut user. Remember, that's what I chose to return, just the username, no ID. You can return ID, you probably should, because the ID can be useful, but this is my response. So notice what I got down here. This is the value I wanted, just to show what I was talking about earlier. I know we don't really care too much about it, but always get to get more exposure to promises. If I do not await here, right? Now I'm saying this is returning a promise. I'm not waiting for it. I'm going to continue on to the next line immediately because that's how synchronous code works. So if I try to log in again, notice I get a pending promise. So this is not the actual data that I want. It has the data eventually when it gives me the result back. But this entire object is a promise that evaluates the data down here. It happened really quickly, so we had the result here. But if this API call took like a minute, this would still be pending. It would not be fulfilled. Okay, promises, promises, promises. We want to await any async function. All right, so that looks like that's working. So we're logged in. We should be logged in. Let's make sure we have a CSRF token. So go to application cookies. All right, we do have a CSRF token. We don't have a session ID though. That is concerning to me. Something might not be right here. Let's try this again. So I'm going to delete my cookie. Yeah, something's not going right. And that is going to bother me. So we should be getting a cookie right here, but we are not getting a cookie. Well, we don't have any errors here. Let's see if our server tells us anything. Server looks good. What? Okay. Sorry, this is unexpected, but this was working at some point. I'm going to try putting this config back in. I don't think we need it, but hopefully it doesn't hurt. Log in. All right, let's try this again. There we go. Okay, so sorry, I know it's not intentional, but it looks like we do need the header, and I'm gonna guess it's because of where did it go? Where is it? I think it's because of this value. Again, this value is still a mystery to me, so I apologize for not having clarity on it. But since we have a separate setup, I think this is required for whatever communication is going on between Django and our front end. So it seems like this part's needed. I'm pretty sure this doesn't matter because again, we don't have a CSRF token, but we need to send this part. So that was a little incorrect information on my part. Apologies. But so I'm gonna get rid of split screen. Kind of drives me nuts to have too many sections. All right. So just to reiterate, it seems like we do need to send the header specifically for the with credentials. The CSRF token does not really matter here because it's null, it doesn't exist. So if I clear this again and hit login, we get a session ID and a CSRF token back from the server. So now any request we make will actually get a CSRF token sent to the backend. Okay, So we're logged in now. Probably want to redirect a user. It's not really exciting to stay on the login page once login is successful. So let's get a quick redirect on our login page. If you guys remember how to do that, we can use our good old friend navigate or use navigates. Use navigates. That comes from our React router. Make sure you import it if VS Code does not. So assuming that we have data, let's say we have data. We don't need to log it out or console log it anymore, but we do want to redirect. So we'll say we'll navigate to the home page. That's usually a good landing spot. All right, so this is the route for the home page. So let's see that in action. That is my bad. Always forget those. It's a Python JavaScript context switch that always throws me off there. But okay, so let's try logging in. Nope. We had donuts. User Quebec 1234. All right, there we go. We logged in. I am not saying the password. I need to never do that. But we logged in and we have access to all the task lists now. But keep in mind, donut user did not create these task lists. These are, I believe, assigned to admin right now. So we are seeing data that is not appropriate for us, I would say, because I should not be able to look at anyone else's to-do list. It could be private information. So we did log in. We are getting every task list back from the backend. How can we limit this? Luckily, it's very, very simple from the backend side. So there are two considerations here. One thought that you might have is, well, what if we get all the task lists from the backend and then filter them on our front end based on who's logged in? Now, that's a good thought that can work, but that is still kind of dangerous. We're still sending all the data to the front end. It could, like a malicious person could maybe extract that information, even though our code might try to block it. So we should definitely filter on the back end, because that is more safer, and it's going to reduce the amount of data we send also. So there's many benefits for doing it on the server side. So again, this is a quick fix or a quick addition. So if I go back to my views, I want to look at task view set. So right now, what's happening is anytime we hit up our view, the kind of the pool of data it's working with is specified right here by query set. So this is saying consider all task lists. So all means every user's task list is part of the pool that this view set's going to be cruding with. Now we don't want that though. Now that we have specific users logging in, we want to filter this down. And luckily, view sets give a pretty easy way to do that. So instead of having like a single hard-coded query set, I'm going to comment this out. And this is, again, inheritance back at play. There's a method called get query sets that the model view set will automatically look for. So I need to call it this, again, must be named this, must be named this. I think you guys get it though. Must name this. Same thing with perform create. Again, these are not naming choices I went with. This is reading documentation, figuring out what I need to override, and then doing it that way. So here, I'm going to filter my query set. So I have task list dot objects. I don't want all. I want to use the filter method and say the creator. Again, remember creator was a model field that I had, right? I had creator specified that's tied to my user. So creator is the field I'm going to target. Right here, I'm going to say creator needs to be equal to self.request.user. Now again, there is some magic going behind the scenes. This request object, as I mentioned before, the user is automatically going to be updated once they log in. So this user is going to reference who's actually logged in right now. This is nothing I kind of set up myself. The DRF framework is taking care of that. So the request object is the object that came in, and it's going to have an attached user to it. If no one ever logged in, this would be tied to an anonymous user object, which would mean this query should fail because no anonymous user should have a task list. So now, again, this is going to be dynamic. Based on whoever's logged in, we're going to return only the task list for this view set to play around with. So again, instead of using all, we filter based on the user. So now with this one change, if I go back to my front end, I'm just going to, I think refreshing should be fine. Yeah, I still have my cookies. So I'm still logged in as the user, but I don't have anything to see because this user never created a task list. If I want to, let's go to incognito mode because I don't want to corrupt my user. I'm gonna go to localhost. I see some hands raised. I will get to you guys, promise. Just want to put this one thought. I'm gonna go to admin panel in incognito mode. Let's add a task list for the new user that I'm logged in with. So let's create a new task list. Say donuts to do. Description, yum, yum, yum. Creator will be assigned to donut user. So who we're logged in as right now. So I'm going to create this through the admin panel just to save some time. Save that. All right, so we have donut to do. This one task list is for the donut user. These three are for the admin user. So that's what we kind of set up. So now if I switch back to my app here, if I refresh. All right. Not sure why that didn't show up. Let's go back to login. Donuts user. Quebec.
Hey, Ankur, did you need to return anything from the get query set?
Yes. Thank you. You guys are the best. This makes me feel good that you guys understand what you guys should be doing and not what I am doing. Thank you. That is most likely the error. I wonder if I could circumvent and go home. There we go. I didn't have to log in. I was already logged in. Thank you, Phil. You guys are great. So yeah, this is the one task list that I have. One thing more about that, notice I am not calling the base class here, and that is my choice, right? Normally we said we should call a base class, but I know exactly what I need to be returning. The base class doesn't need to return anything to me. So I'm not calling the base class here. But yeah, good catch there. We need a return here. So now we get that query set to play around with, which means we only have access to donut to do. I'm going to pause here. Any questions about any of the React work that we did? Again, most of those were React. The one Django change, again, was to filter down our query set by defining a get query set method in our view set. And that's going to filter based on who's logged in. And we get that information by self.request.user.
I have a quick question, Anchor.
Yeah, go for it, Gillen.
So when you're saying creator equals self.request.user, like what's this comparing for? Is it ID or name or entire object?
The entire object. So the way Django stores our data models is it has the entire object for us to use. So this creator is the entire user object that is tied to this particular model. So this right here, the creator is the name I gave it. Again, that's naming choice. That is referencing the entire user record that is associated with this task list. That is only in Django. In the database, this is going to be stored simply as an ID. But in our Django, we have access to the full user object. So that's why we're comparing the entire, sorry, where did it go? The entire user object. We do not want to do .id because again, this is not going to match up. This is an object. We don't want to just simply compare it to an ID. Cool. Any other hands up there? Andrew Tran?
I got one. Your base admin profile, can it still see everything or can it not? I think it can see everything in the Django admin panel, but what if you log in as your base admin profile?
Good question. Let's do that. So I need some links here. If you guys can indulge me for a second, let me add some links in. This was another component I added, which we didn't do on Wednesday together, but it's a simple component called main header, which has a menu. Going to add another menu item here. Probably want some spacing, so no break space pipe, no break space. All right, so this is going to be, oops, that's not where it goes. Here. Okay, so this is going to be our new link to the login page, so I don't have to keep typing it in. The login. Okay, so that should show up in our menu, hopefully. All right, so now we have a login menu right here. So if I go to login, great, let's log in as admin and let's see what data sets we get for that. So admin, login. Login. All right, more debugging ahead. So everything seemed to go right. Let's actually try to debug this. So I have my debugger running, so why not? I'm gonna put a breakpoint right here. Let's actually see what the value of request user is. I'm actually curious here. So let's go home. All right, nothing's being sent.
You're expecting all the task list because this is this, an actual admin account.
I'm not expecting all because I'm specifically filtering right here. So although the admin can have view perms on everything, that is not going to happen in this case. Let me try logging in again. Not sure what wires I'm missing. Okay, so I hit this now. This user is
Okay, if you're looking for the other task list, you assigned them to the Friday user, not the admin user.
Oh, is that right? Okay, thank you. That would explain that. Let's try that then. Let's log in as Friday user. Thank you, John. My bad, I lost track. So let's try Friday user. Quebec. I thought they're still set to admin though, but all right, I stand corrected. Thank you. You guys are amazing. So yeah, sorry, admin user had no list associated with them. That's my bad for not double checking. So let's find out. Yeah, so they're all assigned to Friday user. Thank you. We could assign one to admin user. Let's give admin user 1. So they're going to have 2020 goals for admin. Let's save it in our incognito mode. Now, if we go back to login, we should only see one list for admin. There it is, 2020 goals. So now we're appropriately filtering data based on which users logged in, which again is a key feature for many sites, right? I don't go into Amazon and get to see all your orders. I only get to see my orders. So this is how we implement authentication. And then once we have the ability to authenticate, we can use the user to get specific user specific data to the application. Shun, question?
Yeah, just a quick question. On your views.py, could you just set that variable that we had for query set to that what you're returning on? Like, do you have to overwrite the get query set, I guess, is what I'm asking?
Yes, because this is an instance method. This is a class level attribute. There is no self.request.user up here. So these are going to be called for each instance. This is kind of like a static or a kind of consistent value for every instance, right? Because they're class level attributes.
Yeah, gotcha, makes sense.
Yep. Good question though. Always good to kind of explore other options. Elon?
It is a very quick question. So I could be getting this wrong, but didn't you say something that allows admin user have access to see others users posts?
Specifically, yeah, I said admin users can view other user accounts. We're not going to implement this on the front end. This is more just kind of future thought. But we're saying we can't, if we want to see all other users in our system, only admin users should have that possibility if we wire that up in our front end. We could maybe see this in our, let's go to our API view if you guys want to take a quick tangent. All right, so I am logged in right now as admin. Yes. So go to /to do API/users. Notice I can view all users right now in the API view. These are all the users that exist because I'm logged in as admin right now. What if we log in as donut user, who is not an admin user? They will be authenticated, but they do not have admin perms. So if I go to Quebec 1234, okay, we're logged in as donut user. Let's go back here and refresh this page. Notice I do not have permission to view users. So the user objects are banned except for admin users. So if I try to send a request from the front end to do a GET request to this backend point, I would see the same message, same error of 403, not enough perms. Cool. Any other thoughts, questions? Changil?
So how would you do if you want to make the admin to see the task list at the front end?
Every task list. Good question. Yeah, that seems totally reasonable. So this is where we need to just mess with our view method. Again, we have control here. So we could say, or let's say, I hate ternaries in Python, so I'm gonna do it manually. If self.requests.user.is, I think staff or super user is one of these. I'm gonna go with super user because that's what I created. So this is another, just a function that's on it's either a function or a property. We're gonna have to figure that out. In that case, we just want to turn everything. So back to what we had before, where we just do .all. So again, we have as much control as we need, assuming we have access to such properties. Again, this is super user, should be true for our admin user. They should have whatever is super user is looking for. I'm not sure if this is a method or a property, so we'll find out in 1 second. So if I log in, once my server's up. Yeah, so this should now conditionally say if you're a super user, you get everything. Otherwise, we're going to filter for you. So let's go back to login, admin.
Okay, you're missing your return statement.
Oh man, I'm terrible, but you guys are the best. Thank you. All right, come back. Okay, so if I log in as admin, there we go. We have everyone's task list available. So we can mess with them. We could delete them. I guess that's a good admin, task to delete unnecessary task lists. So that'd be fine. Okay, so we got our login page. We haven't done sign up. I'm not sure if I want to do sign up, but pretty simple. It's just another form that looks like this. But instead of hitting the login backend, you hit the user with a post, the user route with a post. So you need to post to this URL. We could do that in the API route really easily. Again, if you imagine this is my sign up form on the front end, I would say happy user, password Quebec 1234. We would send a post request from the front end to the back end. We don't need any perms. Again, this is CSRF exempt. This is any user, anonymous users can do this. So I'm going to do this and we create that user. Obviously, I'm logged in as admin right now, but I could log out and still do this as an anonymous user. Do you guys want to see a sign up page? Yes, no, happy to do it if there's enough interest.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yep.
Sure, always good to get more React. I did promise you guys this would be less than an hour, so we are approaching 2 o'clock soon, but let's do it. All right, so we have our login page, sign up page will be super similar. I could probably reuse my login page, but let's just be lazy in this interest of time. Copy and paste login page, copy, paste. Call this sign up page, sign up page. All right, gonna look very similar. It's gonna have the same form, just different name. Sign up page. What else? There should be a sign up. Just a lot of renaming. Fields are gonna be the same. We could have like, confirm password. That's a thing you see sometimes in sign up forms. Not gonna bother with it. I just wanna get this going. So, all right, handle sign up. So we get into handle sign up. We do the same exact thing, extract data. Again, I would probably refactor this and reuse the login page somehow. The only difference is instead of calling to do login, we need to call to do sign up. And I'll change all this. Sign up. Where else? All right, cool. So everything is basically the same as login page. I guess the one difference is we want to navigate to the login page once they sign up. But otherwise, I could totally do this in one component. I hope you guys trust me that I have that capability. But we need to create a call to sign up. So let's do that right here. Gonna be super similar. I'll call this sign up data, just have a good name. This method will be called sign up. That's our choice. So we can name these whatever we want, but we do have to route to this to users. So it's kind of odd that we're not routing to sign up, but remember we're calling a view set, and that view set base path is /users. So we send a post to the user list view that should create a new item for us. All right, so that's pretty simple. Again, a lot of copy and pasting from the login page. Let's add another link to, where do you want to go? Our main header. Let's add one of these. And yeah, maybe we want to conditionally show the login or this. I guess we want to conditionally show the login if they're not logged in. Might want to show log out if they're logged in already. I think Raphael did that with one of his demos. But let's-
And sign up too, right? Because like if they're already logged in, would it cause an issue if they try to sign up again?
no, I think that'd be fine. Like, I guess like technically it wouldn't make sense if they're logged in. They shouldn't sign up because that lets them create as many accounts as they want. So you're right. We could probably hide it if they're logged in, but there's nothing inherently preventing us from creating a user while we're logged in as another user. But yeah, let's get that. We'll try to conditionally change this up just to get some more real life stuff. Let's go for sign up. So sign up, no routes match sign up because that doesn't get created. We need a route to actually go to on the front end to see what we want on the back end. There was one more thing I wanted to do before our hour's up, so I'll do that after this. And then I think I'm good with everything I wanted to show. So I need to import that. Sign up page. Okay, so we got that. We got a route. We got our page that just looks like a form. This should probably say sign up. Remember, once we sign up successfully, we're going to navigate to the login page because that's usually what we do on sites. Okay, so this sign up page. I'm not exporting the right thing, am I? Sign up. Okay, now we should get to go. So if I go home, cool. This is the admin user, gets access to everything. Let's sign up as a normal user. So let's go with unhappy user. Password's going to be the same. Quebec 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep typing that. Quebec. Quebec's a hard word to type. Let's say. Okay, notice we signed up. We got a response. We got redirected to the login page. Now unhappy user should be able to log in with Quebec 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So unhappy user has no task list. Let's actually do our CRUDing. We have not created a new task list after we've been logged in. So let's create a new task list for unhappy user. Let's say be happier to do. Things I need to do to be happier. All right, let's see if this works. I always get kind of hesitant because sometimes it doesn't. So we're logged in. All right, this worked. I have not coded up my task page properly, so I have some errors. So we don't see the tasks here. But our task list did get created. We can maybe modify this a little bit. Sure, let's do it just for fun. So again, this is where I left off on Wednesday. We didn't get quite to our task list page, so we kind of have some silly hard-coded values. But assuming that we get a task list passed in via props, which we're not using. Let's see. So we need to use props.tasklist. Where do we use that? Oh, right here. So props. How did I do this? Okay, so we need to do props. No, we need to do task list. So again, we have a state value called task list, which might be null. Initially, it's going to be null, so we should conditionally check it. And then we need to get tasks off the task list. So how did I do this? Oh, I have another state value. Great. Oh, I should have tasks available. Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. So this should be task lists and task list dot name. Same thing here. Sorry guys, I know I'm kind of boring you with this stuff. I just want to get this page working. Shouldn't be too much work. Description. All right, so conditionally render the name and description based on the task list that gets fetched. And keep in mind, this comes from params. I know there's a question of why do we use params here? Why can't we just pass task list? We briefly talked about that. We don't have access to the task list page from like the homepage. The homepage has the task list data, but we can't just directly pass it. Additionally, if we are manually typing in an address, like let's say I just copy and pasted task list /15, we would have never loaded task list on the homepage to begin with. So let me clean this up. So tasks should always be something or nothing. So that should be, I'm not sure why tasks is blowing up on me here. Okay, so we got the titles here. We have no task right now. We don't have any CRUD capabilities for tasks. That's too much for me to do right now. But just to show you, we are getting to the correct page. Let's go back and create another one. Let's say lunch to do, eat, what to eat. All right, so notice it did get created. We got redirected to this page because that's the logic that we had. Ignore the errors of whatever is going on here. Okay, cool. So that's our CRUDing's working. We're able to log in. We're able to read our task list. We're able to create task lists, log in, sign up work. That's pretty cool. One thing I do want to do here is we don't have logout. So I'm going to quickly add logout. I'll conditionally render it to take care of it. So I'm going to go a little quickly here. If I'm losing anyone, just throw up your hands. Actually, just yell at me because I won't see your hands. What I'm going to do is I need to store a state value after I log in. Because notice I log in, but I don't store that information anywhere. Only way I know I'm logged in is based on the request object that gets sent proves that I'm logged in. But I want to internally keep track of that. So I'm going to go to app.js. We're going to create a state value. That state value is simply going to be the username. So username, set username. It's going to be use state. All right, so initially it'll be empty string. Once we log in, we should have access to that. So I'm going to pass in set username right here. All right, so keep in mind, I'm passing the updating function as a prop to the login page so that when the login page successfully logs in, they could pass back the username via this function. So if I have a prop value to login page, if I go to login page now, I should be able to, before I navigate, probably want to set the username. So I have props.set username as data.username. I believe that's what I'm sending back. Okay, so we have data.username. Andrew?
So you're doing this right now as a state value, but couldn't you also do it by setting like a cookie?
Yeah, we could set a cookie, but I'm going to need that data in my application very often. So it makes sense to have it as state value rather than fetching a cookie.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Though, if I like close my browser and come back, I'm not going to have that functionality of being logged in still. That's where, yeah, cookies would probably make more sense. But I was going to go with this approach because state values are easy to manage. But yeah, we can set a cookie if you guys were interested. Okay, so we set the username. Once we have a non-empty username, we're going to know that we're logged in. So based on that, what if I go back to app.js and tell my main header what the username is? Right, so we're going to pass that state value down as a prop to main header. This is kind of like my main menu thing. This is going to be a forwarded prop, meaning main header does not really care about this, but main header has a component. I guess it does, right? I lost my component design, but we don't want to show these two if we're logged in. We want to show logout. If we're not logged in, we want to show these two, I guess. So let's conditionally do this. And I think it's time for a function. Render auth items. All right, I'm just creating a function just because I don't want my render to get too bloated. So I'm going to create a render helper. And let's call that const render auth items. That arrow function. Now we just want to investigate, do we have a username or not? Remember, that's passed on via props. So we could say if props.username is empty string, let's just simply render. So they're not logged in. We need to show both of these. So let me grab these. We need to nest this under something. I'll go with an empty tag for once. Remember, we can only return one top level parent, so that's why I'm using these kind of invisible nodes. Okay, so that's if the username is empty. We want to return that. Else, we could assume that they're not logged in. Return this with a logout. How do we want to do logout? We could handle logout here. I feel like that's kind of cheap, but I don't want to create a new page for this. So let's just handle it here. Yeah, let's handle it here. So again, I'm not going to route anywhere for logout. I'm just going to call my API from here, if you guys are fine with that, because I don't want to get too codey here. Okay, hopefully this all makes sense, and hopefully it has wired up correctly. This should be our logout. So our logout, when they click it, will not take them anywhere. Give me one sec, guys. All right. This is not the best way to do it. This is poor organization, just a disclaimer, but I'm going to do this all here. So I'm going to say const handle or do logout. I don't want to put this on some other page because it adds more routing. Basically, when we click on the logout menu option, that should call do logout. And do logout is going to do a bunch of stuff for us. One thing it's going to do is it's going to be async because we want to do const data equals to do API dot logout. We don't need to pass it anything. We need to await it though. Once we get a response, it's pretty hard to fail logging out, but we should get a response. If data, we want to update the state value. So that is one thing we need to do. In order to do that, we need to pass the setter down. So in case we log out, the main header is going to take care of that. Again, poor organization. Please don't let this be an example for your design, but we'll do props dot set username and just clear it out. After we do that, we also want to navigate maybe back to homepage. Sounds good. Any questions while I'm kind of hacking away? We got 5 minutes until I hit my hour mark. And I don't want to go too much more past it. Navigate equals use.
Don't you need to return that as well?
Return.
Render auth items. If props.username equals empty string, you have to return that that div or whatever.
Man, I'm being horrible today. I don't know why I don't want to return anything. You guys, yeah, you guys, nothing gets by you guys. It's great to see that you guys are good with your React syntax. Yes, we need to return something in both cases. Thank you. That would have screwed me up. All right, everything good here? All right, cool. Why do we have 2 of those? Oh, I left that in here. Okay, so we're logged in right now. Let's try to log out, but I don't have a logout method here. Let's quickly create one. So this is going to be called logout. Doesn't require any data to log out. This is going to hit up our backend endpoint of logout. And we do need to send our CSRF headers, as we kind of saw earlier. So we'll put null for our data and then pass the config header. I think that's all wired correctly. Let's see if our logout actually works. So right now we are logged out, it looks like. Is that right? Let's see. Unhappy user. Go back 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so notice we're logged in and now it says log out. So that seems to be working correctly. What if I log out now? That should flip and send me back to the home page. I'll be an anonymous user at that point, so I should not see any list right here. However, this is probably not going to work because let me tell you why. So my home page will load the task list on the very first time. It will never get an update, but we want to update this whenever props.username changes. Username will change when we log in and log out. So when we log out, we're still rendering the home page. So the home page will currently will not receive any update to refetch data. So we want to add a condition now saying, hey, whenever props.username changes, go get your task list again. So in order to do that, we need to pass a prop value down to our homepage now. For any more advanced users out there, this is a good case for using context. Notice we're passing the username kind of pretty much everywhere in our application. There's something called context in React. I know we didn't cover it, but that's one solution to this problem of, hey, pretty much all of my app needs username. How can I do this aside from passing props every single time? So that's just some food for thought if you guys want to research context. Fun little topic. I think it's useful to learn about. But okay, so if I hit log out now, fingers crossed, we should be logged out. Our menu should update and we should not see any lists right here. So log out. Cool. Check, check, check. We're good. All right, I have 2 minutes left. I'm going to do one more thing, and I promise that's all I have in mind. I don't know if you guys trust me at this point, but all right. So I'm logged in. I'm an anonymous user right now, but I still have the ability to like crud some stuff. It's not going to work. I'll get rejected. So if I try to do this as an anonymous user, new rejects to do, this should fail from the back end. But notice that the UI lets me do whatever. So if I try to send this, the backend should protect me, as in, there we go. We're forbidden to CRUD to task list because we're not logged in. So that's working correctly, but this is not a good user experience. Like, it's not obvious to the user that they have to log in. So I'm going to add one more component just to kind of see one more thing in React. This is a bonus, like that +1 that Apple always does for their presentations. I'm going to create a new page and call it force login. Let's call it force login page. This is going to be a pretty simple component. React functional component. Force login page. All right, let's call it check login page. Sorry for the switch of names. All right, so this page is going to be a wrapper for all my other pages. Check login page. What this is going to do is going to check one specific thing for me. And basically, if props.username is empty string, meaning they've not logged in. And we can check this with cookies also. There's different ways to check this. Maybe that's not the best way. But if our username is empty, we don't want to show anything. In fact, we're going to show something else. We're going to show them a nice little message saying, hey, you are not logged. You are not logged in. Please log in or sign up. And we can use some links. Link. So again, nice use of link. We know where to route to for the login page. I go to /login. For the sign up page, got to see what happened. Okay, link to login and link to, what the hell happened here? All right, link to our sign up route. Okay, so that should be our links. They should see a nice message, and that's all they see on any page. Otherwise, we want to show the actual page that we want to render. So this gets a little Reacty, but it's a good kind of bonus topic. So when we render this page, if they are not logged in, we just show a message and that's it. That's all we render. But if they are logged in, we should pass this point and render the actual page. So we can do this in a few ways. I'm going to do it the easier way. I'm going to say props dot, let's call it actual page. I think that should work. All right, so we're going to pass down two prop values, the username and something called actual page, which we'll see what that will be in a second. So if I go to my route level, I'm going to import that new page called check login page. And I'm going to render that for pretty much every page here. So let me copy and paste so I don't lose what I had. So these guys will take a back seat. I'm going to change my routes a little bit. I'm going to render a check login page. And I'm going to pass out a prop. One prop value is username. Nothing surprising there. Let's actually make this on a different line. So check login page username. All right, so username is passing down like any other prop. but my other prop is going to be called actual page. That's a name I chose, to be clear. And this is going to render a function or render a component. So make sure my braces line up. Open. Close. Sorry, this gets a little tricky. Check login page starts here. Oh, is this the issue? Sorry, let's try it.
I don't think you're closing your route.
You might be right. So this closes my check login page. Let's put it on one page, one line again. All right, so that closes that. I need a curly brace here and a closing bracket there. Yeah, this gets obviously kind of very nested. Let's put this here. All right, so I'm gonna add back my prop, actual page. So notice when I call this function, it's gonna render a home page with whatever I want. So let's just try that for the home page. I'm not sure how badly this might break. But if I save this, link is not defined. That makes sense. So again, the whole idea here is we can pass down components as props and render them just like normal. So that's kind of cool, I think. I just want to show that. Import, what is it? Link from React Router DOM. Okay, fingers crossed. Hopefully this works as intended. There we go. We are not logged in. So it's asking us to log in or sign up. So this is the home page. Notice my route here. I'm not at some other route. I'm at the home page route, but I am not logged in. So that check login page kind of intercepts it and hijacks what's rendered. So I go to login. Let's go with Friday user, Quebec 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, notice this updated. Notice we actually see what we want to. So that's kind of cool. Again, I think it's kind of cool to get passed down, props. The reason I pass this down as an anonymous function is because I wanted to render this with another prop. If I only wanted to render the home page, I could just do something as home page. Sorry, my syntax can get kind of weird here. I don't think I could do this because it's going to render that right away. Sorry, let's ignore that last 5 seconds. Anonymous function is simple enough. Cool. I don't know if I lost anyone along the way, but this is our site. It's looking pretty cool. We could delete stuff, add stuff. We could log in, log out. I think it's a nice site so far. Obviously more to do. Our task detail page. Oh, I guess it does show us tasks, even better. Cool. That is our to-do page. We spent a lot of time on it. Hopefully you guys were able to go through it, add some cool features, and hopefully after today you can add some authentication to get this really functional. With that said, I know I'm 6 minutes over time. Apologies, did not mean to break my promise to you guys. But before we wrap up here, what questions you guys have about authentication, any of the React stuff we did, anything that didn't make sense? Want to make sure we wrap up on a good note. Phil.
Yeah, this might be like too much for right now, or like a bigger topic, but how would you go about on the React side, like limiting access to certain pages based on permissions? Because right now we're kind of just forcing it all, whether you're logged in or not. But if there's like admin users versus other users, like how would you limit traffic to certain URLs or pages or whatever?
Sure. So this is where the backend would need to get involved because the backend knows what the permissions are, right? The front end doesn't know. It's got to check with the backend. So the way you would design that is basically if I try to go to, let's say the logout page needs protection, right? If that's a resource, that's not a great example. But if I make a request, an API request of something, and it tells me I'm rejected, let's make it a better case. Let's say I go to summer to do, and I'm not allowed to view these tasks. So when I go to fetch these tasks, the backend just send me a 403 saying forbidden. I could respond to that on the front end saying, all right, I got a 403 message. Let me reroute the page up front to like, hey, you need to log in. Does that make sense? So you can respond to the 403. Right now, we're not responding to it. If I fail, I just see an error message. But we can go on from there and say, all right, we got a 403. That means you need to log in. And we can reroute them or do what we did with the check login page to kind of hide the content that we want. Cool, good question. Elon?
I have a question about the Django, the pre-built login sign up page.
Sorry, that was, what'd you say, the pre?
You remember when we were dealing with Django, like Django has some built-in login page URLs?
Oh, yeah, like a form, right? Or
Correct. Like, I was just wondering, is that something we can incorporate with our React page?
no, not really. So this is a question, I think Phil had a similar question at some point about using model forms on the front end. We cannot leverage like the UI component of Django in our front end. So there's something called user creation form. I don't know what page I'm on, Java T point. But yeah, so there are some nice UI features that Django provides. We unfortunately can't leverage them on the React side. We got to kind of recreate those forms manually. So it is kind of tedious. There is some benefit of using just Django as a full stack app. But again, React gives us some capabilities that Django may not. But the short answer is no, we can't use that user creation form or user sign up form to render an actual form on the front end. We need to do it ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. All right, what other questions you guys have? You guys good? You guys feeling good? Wrapping up this Friday? You guys totally lost? I don't know how to gauge the audience silence here.
Ankur, where are you going to push this code? Do you push yours to demos or somewhere else?
I usually do a pull request to challenge. I know Raphael does a different way. Apologies for us kind of having different methods. We should try to get on the same method. We also have the idea of having a solutions branch. I might try doing that too, but the easiest for me right now, I'm going to submit a pull request. And I think I gave you a link to this project also, so you guys probably can download it directly. So we'll push it after we wrap up lecture. I will try to get a solutions branch, but there might be more priority items to do this afternoon, so I won't get to that. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'm going to pause for like 5 seconds for questions. Okay, so no questions. I'm going to stop it here.